Now a topic that has been unfolding for the past few weeks, the issue in Ukraine, specifically Crimea. Russia has kind of taken over after a referendum, and we have more details for you, so let's take a quick look at that.
Russian President Vladimir Putin, defying Ukrainian protest and Western sanctions, signed a treaty on Tuesday making Crimea part of Russia, but said he did not plan to seize any other regions of Ukraine. In a fiercely patriotic address to a joint session of parliament in the Kremlin, punctuated by standing ovations, cheering and tears, Putin said Crimea's disputed referendum vote on Sunday, held under Russian military occupation, had shown the overwhelming will of the people to be reunited with Russia. To the Russian national anthem, Putin and Crimean leaders signed a treaty on making Crimea part of Russia, declaring, in the hearts and minds of people, Crimea has always been and remains an inseparable part of Russia. Parliament was expected to begin ratifying the document within days. The speech drew immediate hostile reaction in Kiev and the West. Ukraine's foreign ministry said it did not recognize the pact, which showed how Russia posed a threat to international security. US Vice President Joe Biden, on a visit to Poland, called Moscow's action a land grab and stressed Washington's commitment to defending the security of NATO allies on Russian borders. In his speech, Putin lambasted Western nations for what he called hypocrisy, saying they had endorsed Kosovo's independence from Serbia, but now denied Crimeans the same right.
Now, this issue is not black and white. There are a number of issues that make it difficult to rule in one way or another. So let me tell you what the issue really is. About 60% of people living in Crimea right now are ethnically Russian. Now, a referendum happened and they voted in favor of breaking away from Ukraine and being part of Russia. However, there is some question into the legitimacy of that referendum. As you heard in that video, the referendum happened under Russian military occupation. So there's an element of intimidation there. And also, at the very tail end of that video, the reporter talks a little bit about American hypocrisy and how Putin is calling us out on that. I think that that was actually a really great point by Putin, even though I don't agree with what's happening in Ukraine right now, because hey, you know what? We did go into Iraq preemptively, saying that there were weapons of mass destruction, and there were not. We go around bullying people and telling them what they should do and how they should follow our ideology. And if Putin does something similar in Crimea, who are we to point our finger at him and say, no, 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 you can't do that. Americans, we're exceptional, but in your case, you have to bow your head and listen to what we want. Now, I want to bring in the panelists. As I said, this is a really complicated issue, but I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about it. Jarrett, what are your thoughts on what's happening?
Okay, so it is a very complicated issue, and I tend to step back a little bit from this stuff and take less of a political, more of a philosophical point, like viewpoint of it, which is that pointing out the hypocrisy of a given nation's foreign policy is like, you go back to Rome. I just feel like governments and countries and borders ebb and flow, and invasions happen, and then they don't, and people take energy, whatever it is. I kind of go, when these big things come out about like torture or assassination or whatever, my head, I've always gone, don't we know forever that's what governments do, and that's like the way history moves? Mm-hmm. So I feel like that about this, like that it's not constitutional, and whatever it is, it would be. I mean, we mentioned here about isn't this like just annexing Texas? But it would also be like if Texas just decided to join Mexico, and we were like, not okay. Okay, I'm a cowboy at heart. No, but we would never accept that. But it could happen, and just like that's how history would move. You know what I mean? I have a feeling about that. So
you're saying, let Crimea be part of Russia, the United States should just let it go and move forward?
I don't know about let it go. Uh-huh. I don't even know if I say should or would. It just, wars will keep happening, I guess is kind of how I feel.
Of course they will, of course. But, one worry is, the future ramifications of what happened in Crimea. So this kind of sets a precedent. Do you go into a country, or I should say a region of a country or part of a country, and tell them, hey, you know what, if you want to join us, the United States, all you have to do is do a referendum, and then we're just going to break you away from your country. I mean, that sets a terrible... and we've done that in the past. We've done that in the past.
And we will again. Uh-huh. I believe, So no, obviously no, we can all agree that's a terrible thing. Invasion's terrible. Like military duress, forcing a vote to say, do you want to be part of our team when we got guys with guns outside is horrible. It'll just keep happening. And it's funny, it's just always interesting to me to have this conversation where we go, that's terrible and you shouldn't do that. when we have done it and when we will do it again, and everyone will keep doing it.
So, Lisa, President Obama has said that he will use sanctions to discourage Russia from doing this type of behavior again in the future. It seems like they've already conceded that Crimea is now part of Russia. But do you think that the sanctions are enough? I mean, do you think that this is something that Russia is going to feel, emboldened by, and they're going to continue trying to break away certain parts of certain countries?
Well, Putin's not dumb, and he does want to leave a legacy. And if you look at the history, so when an issue comes up like this, I go straight to the source, and I spent an hour talking to somebody from Russia this morning who's a friend, and I know him. And Crimea is Russian, and this is a 900-year-old history, and I would agree with everything my friend shared with me was accurate about what that clip was that you played. But the perception and how it spun, because in the 50s, it was given away, and America was facilitative in that, and so that's what the hypocrisy comment was about. It wasn't about Afghanistan. It was about the fact that these are 900 years ago, when Christianity came in, it was custom to mix the races. His own mother was sent to another part of the region after university. They would give them jobs. And so Ukraine is Russian. Kiev was the capital of Russia for all those years.
What's really interesting, though, is that the youth who are there don't really feel Russian. They recognize that their parents and their grandparents are, and in the voting polls, what
so
you're
they
seeing,
feel violated. Yes, exactly
they
what's going on.
absolutely do, and they don't feel that they should be moved. So
and they don't feel represented.
Right.
So
you're looking at a national issue, a humanitarian issue, and a political issue all at the same time. There's a cultural difference between the two.
Yep.
Now, Dick Cheney said that Obama was being weak because all he's really doing is threatening Russia with sanctions. He's not threatening with military intervention because, Dick Cheney is the right person to go to when it comes to all things foreign policy. He was a total success when it came to our policy in Iraq and Afghanistan. But Lee, I want to turn to you. What do you think the U.S.'s role should be in all of this?
I think that the U.S. needs to take a listening role first and start to allow for the people. I mean, we had the segment on social media. We talked about the importance of giving voice to the people. I think that our government should be in a stance of listening and then starting to share out what will happen if, as opposed to just being reactive.
Yeah. What he told me is that the people are happy because they feel safe now, and that there won't be any, and that Obama's statement was actually to them a statement of protection. See, so it's all perception, it's how it's spun, it's how it's, so yeah, the more voices we hear, I think the more truth we'll understand.